The Magic Horse. Once upon a time in Persia, at the royal palace, all the kingdom's artists, craftsmen, and strangers would present their skills to the king. If the king was pleased, he would grant them a fine gift. One day, a traveler came before the king and presented an artificial horse.
Your Majesty, never has such a thing ever been seen, as wonderful as this.
But any toy maker can make a toy horse.
This is not just a toy, Your Majesty. On his back, I can ride through the air with the greatest of ease, to the most distant part of the earth in a very short time.
The man demonstrated the skills of his mechanical horse. The king was amazed and asked to purchase the horse.
Oh, Your Majesty, I couldn't possibly sell such a valuable horse for mere money.
Well then, so what do you want? I must have this horsey.
The stranger thought for a moment, and then offered to give him the horse for free, if the king would give him the hand of the princess. The king was about to agree when his son, Prince Darius, came into the room and spoke up in protest.
Forgive me, father. Were you just about to let this guy marry my sister in exchange for a toy horse?
The king, somewhat embarrassed, denied it and asked his son to examine the horse. Prince Darius approached the horse. He leapt onto the saddle and pulled the lever. In an instant, the horse rose high into the air. The king was very pleased, but suddenly realized that his son was so high he could be hurt. He ordered the guards to seize the traveler and put him to prison. Far away in the sky, Prince Darius was carried through the clouds with breathtaking speed. He tried using the lever to turn the horse off, but it did nothing. But he examined the horse further and found another lever, and when he moved it, the horse started to descend. The prince came down close to the ground. Spotting a rooftop higher than all the others, he landed the horse upon the roof of the palace. He came to some steps below. A princess had already been awakened by the sounds she had heard on the roof. She instructed her guards to bring the trespasser to her. The guards brought the prince before her, and he fell on his knees.
Forgive me, princess, for awakening you. I am the son of a king. That means I'm a prince, and that's the most important thing about me.
The lady was Princess Nadia, the daughter of the King of Bengal. The princess felt glad to hear all about his adventure. Over the next few days, the two of them got to know each other, and before long, they fell in love. One afternoon, the prince said to her,
Ah, my princess, I was thinking about our future, and I must go back to my kingdom and ask my father for permission for our marriage. Plus, he would like to know that the magical flying horse didn't smash me into the ground. Want to come?
She agreed. The next morning, they went to the magical, dangerous mechanical horse. Flipping the lever, the two took off, and in 30 minutes, they had arrived at the capital of Persia. The prince first took the princess to a cottage in the woods near the palace.
Stay here while I go get the toy maker out of prison before he's executed, and I'll mention to my dad that I'm not dead. Most of all, I want to tell my father about you. He'll prepare a reception to welcome a princess. Then, maybe after dessert, I'll tell him I want to marry you.
He explained to her how to operate the magic horse in case she might need to flee for safety while he was away. A thief behind the bushes had heard their entire conversation. But can you blame him? They were staying in his cottage.
What luck! A princess alone and a magic horse! I'll take her to the Sultan of Kashmir, I'll get a fine reward for her, and I'll keep the horse.
The thief waited for the prince to disappear into the woods. Then he captured the princess, tied her up, and put her on the magic horse. He got on too and pulled the lever just like the prince had said, and the horse immediately rose into the air. The prince, still on the ground, in the woods, was surprised to hear the cries of his princess flying high overhead. And he could do nothing about it. While the king was overjoyed to see his son and ordered a stay of execution for the toy maker, he understood why his son must leave again. The prince determined never to return until he had found his princess again. The Sultan of Kashmir was very impressed by the thief and delivered the reward. Then he escorted the princess to his palace. The next morning, he ordered his attendant to tell Princess to get ready for the marriage on the same day. There was only one thing she felt she could do. She misbehaved and acted as though she were a crazy and spoiled princess. The Sultan was soon told of this strange development. He offered large rewards to any doctor who would cure her. Meanwhile, Prince Darius had been traveling through many countries, uncertain which way to go, because he didn't have his flying horse anymore. With nearly all hope gone, he rested on a rock. A few local farmers came by and told him about a princess who had gone mad at the day of her wedding to the Sultan of Kashmir. Suddenly, a flicker of hope lit the prince's heart. Could this be the same crazy princess he fell in love with? And he was determined to find out. Arriving at the capital city of Kashmir, he put on the clothes of a doctor. Then Prince Darius, disguised as the doctor, told the Sultan that indeed the princess could be cured, but he would need to speak with her alone. The Sultan agreed. As soon as the prince entered her room, he took her hands in his and whispered,
It is I, Prince Darius, your beloved. This lab coat is merely a disguise.
In more additional, superfluous, detailed whispers, the prince shared his plan with her. Then he returned to the Sultan.
Your Majesty, Sultany Peppery, sir. There's a small chance I can save her and bring her back to sanity. You see, she must have touched something enchanted or watched too many movies as a child. Unless I can examine the magical item, I cannot cure her.
The Sultan remembered the magic horse. He summoned the horse and showed it to the doctor. Upon seeing the horse, the doctor said,
This is indeed the very magical object that enchanted the princess. Let this horse be brought out into the square before the palace, and let the princess be there. In a few minutes, she will be cured.
The following morning, the magic horse was placed in the middle of the square. The prince, posing as a doctor, ordered torches placed around the horse for light. The princess was brought out and led to the horse. The pretend doctor placed her upon the horse. He then ran around it and threw magical black powder into the torches, which raised a cloud of smoke around the horse, so that no one could see the princess and the horse. And hidden in the smoke, the prince mounted the horse, pulled the lever, and the magic horse rose into the air.
Sultan! A bride's heart must be earned. It cannot be purchased.
That same day, the Prince of Persia and his beloved princess arrived safely at the Persian court. The father rejoiced at the son's return and immediately ordered a great feast. And so the prince and princess lived happily ever after. And the toy maker, too. The end. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe our channel and press the bell icon to get future updates. And don't forget to comment.